All right, welcome back to Terror by the Bay. I'm David. Let's try this again. This time with sound. I had moved my laptop over to my computer over here and hooked up to the big monitor yesterday. I reset it back over here this morning, and whenever I unplug my microphone, it defaults to the microphone being muted. And I thought I had plugged it in before I fired up my computer. Maybe I didn't. But regardless, it was muted, so no sound. Deleted that video. Let's shoot it again, this time with audio. Because, you know, we're a high-tech, classy organization. We get both audio and visual. So, what was the point of this reading? This reading is going to be on the effect Trump has had on our traditional allies in their recent elections. Both Canada with Mark Carney and Australia with Anthony Albanese, the left-leaning parties won their elections. In Canada, 2 months ago, the Conservatives were going to curb stomp the left parties. Trudeau his government was in shambles. He had stepped down soon after. Mark Carney took over, and while a breath of fresh air, probably, it gave him hope. I read on this with Marina and Gary on our lives. But really, Trump and Trump's tariffs have unified countries because he's given them a common enemy, and that's the United States. Trump is the great divider. He's divided the Republican Party into MAGA and rhinos. And it's funny because rhinos are what we would call Republicans. MAGA are the extremists, but they've basically taken over the Republican Party. And American politics is as divided as it's ever been. You need look no further than our House of Representatives to understand that. But the unintended consequence is that he's been uniting the rest of the world. And that's not what I didn't see that happening. I saw when I was reading on world politics over the last few months, I've been seeing a rise in the right in the world. There's been a lot of anger and pushback. It's been driven by immigration, and we can go back through all of that. But let's just say that Putin has started this process of taking down the West decades ago. And that's by starting proxy wars in Africa, causing mass migration out of Africa into Europe. And that stirs fears in European countries that they don't have enough resources for this huge influx of immigrants, which then puts the conservatives in charge to shut down their borders and not cooperate with their neighbors. And then instead of a united Europe, you have a divided Europe. And Russia, if they want to start conquering places, would prefer to have a divided Europe because nobody's coming to the mutual aid of anybody else. There, that's real high level, fast thing. But there's been an unintended consequence of this. Trump is just a wild card factor, a chaos agent. And the consequences is that other countries, they're seeing what Trump is and they don't like it. And they don't want it for their country. And it's almost like an Olympics type thing. That countries unite for the Olympics. They put them together. They put aside their petty squabbles and root for Team Canada, for Team Australia, for Team USA to do really well in these competitions. And then we can squabble about politics afterwards. But come on down. Canada election. Let's look at the energy around the Canadian election as impacted by Trump. Knight of Cups. This is even the Quebecers being willing to get along with other provinces in Canada. For those who don't understand, Dr. Lena shared that, and I didn't know this, Northern Australia is the United States form of Texas. Texas is the closest we have to Quebecers in the United States. Quebec would just as soon be its own country in Canada. Its own, not be a province of Canada, but be its own country. And when you can get Quebec to agree with Ontario and British Columbia, you have a unifying force outside that would allow for those relationships to be established. Crossed with the Ace of Swords. Do you want this to happen here? The falling out of the false friend of the United States and Canada uniting. And this card came up before too, the High Priestess. It's the wisdom of understanding who your friends are and are not. You may argue with your siblings, the siblings being Ontario, British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, New Brunswick, good Lord, David, Northwest Territories. Come on, I'm forgetting the far right country. Newfoundland? Anyways, we could be united here because the United States is giving us the common enemy that we need to unite against. We don't want to be like them. In the past, the Two of Coins, they don't want Canada doesn't want the turmoil. You are watching the Canadian loonie dropping against the U.S. dollar. Trump, if the Ace of Wands comes up, that's typically my Trump tariff beatdown card here. The Liberal Party itself was on the decline, and maybe even Canadian unity was on the decline. The Canadian economy, it's been struggling a little bit. It's not bad, but they've run a deficit after COVID, but nothing like the United States has. Current situation is the world, but the United States being a false friend is not only to Canada, they're being a false friend to the world with their tariffs. And even the world is uniting because of the United States' actions. You have the turmoil in the past. Electing, if they put Pierre Poilievre in office, you were going to get more turmoil because he was going to be Trump. He was going to be the Canadian version of Trump. Canada doesn't want that. They would rather take a pause and have things calm down before they make radical changes in their country. In some ways, it's a unifying strength with the rest of the world. That there is a false friend, and the world is uniting against it and pushing back. Canada has united. They've united. How long will they unite? I guess as long as the United States keeps putting the pressure on them. And Canada is going to have to be strong because without the U.S. as a major trade partner for them, the Canadian economy is going to go down. They're going to suffer. But the world is going to suffer too. And Canada, because of this, they are creating new trade opportunities. Instead of selling oil to the United States for 40% off, they're selling it to China for basically close to market rates, if not market rates. And they're going to open up trading partners for other things too to go around Donald Trump's tariffs. This is going to cause a reorganization in the world order. Outcome is the Hanged Man. Trump has caused Canada to reevaluate their relationship with the United States and to reevaluate their relationship with the world, as well as to reevaluate, do they want it to happen here? Pierre Poilievre would have been Canada's version of Donald Trump. Canada has been watching the United States and literally asking themselves, do we want this? Now, the fact that Trump is a chaos agent and has driven tariffs, he's just going to drive the U.S. economy into the ground and try and take the world economy with it. Why? I don't even know at this point. I would have said originally it was because the American oligarchs wanted another 2008, 2009, where they could buy everything pennies on the dollar. But again, Trump he's good at crashing the plane. He's good at making it look like the plane is going to crash. The difference is he doesn't know how to pull it out of its death spiral. And I think American oligarchs are maybe starting to realize that. Maybe he really doesn't know what he's doing. It's going to be up, you know, they're going to be the ones that have to put the pressure on their lackeys, as it were, to deal with this. But we're not there yet. So, Canada. Let's look at Australia. Anthony Albanese has another 3 years. The Labour Party is the left-leaning party in Australia. The Liberal Party is the right-leaning party in Australia. Okay. A little bit different than in the United States, but there you go. But the Labour Party and Anthony Albanese won their elections. Australia also requires people to vote. You get fined if you don't vote. So also a little bit different there. Mandatory participation. How is Trump and Trumpism affecting the Australian elections? Knight of Pentacles. The mercenary, talking about money, the movement of money. What do we have here? Cross with the world. Okay. The U.S. Canada, take two, cue David, action. Australia usually aligns with the U.S. on many policies. And Dr. Lena has mentioned that to us. But Australia is looking at what the U.S. is doing to the world, and they've got to make a choice of who do they want to trade with. Do you want to maintain your strong partnership with the United States? And is that enough? Or do you still want to be a member of the world? Australia has been a staunch ally of the U.S. Dr. Lena, again, would tell you they've followed the U.S. into multiple wars. In the past, you got the Ace of Swords here. I really do think that Anthony Albanese got in there because people are worried about money and the economy and how it's impacting the world. Trump has given the Labour Party the sword that they need, the leadership, the quest that they've needed. Labour Party is reaching out to Canadians to unite them. There's a kind of an isolationism here going also. And I think Canada has been, God, I keep saying it, Australia has been in bed with the United States for a long time. But they're watching the United States walk out on even their most steadfast partners. Again, Canada, England, Germany, France, Australia. The U.S. has put tariffs on everybody. And Australia is like, what's going on here? You'll screw over your best friends on a whim. Trump trying to project strength. It's almost like Australia has to make a choice. Do they stand with the United States or do they stand with the world? Because they're watching the United States abandon everybody else. What makes them think that they're special? That the U.S. won't do it to that? The lesson we learn is the Queen of Swords, and the lesson is they understand that they're not special in Donald Trump's eyes. Now, when I say the U.S. has abandoned them, I do not mean the people of the United States. I'm talking about Donald Trump and his administration. They've abandoned our traditional allies. The folks in the United States, the majority of folks in the United States would not have done what Trump's done, do not condone what Trump's done. It would never screw over our allies like Trump has done. Outcome. Page of Wands. You've got a message. I think Australia is going to take more action about trading with the world. We're moving beyond the election here. We're moving kind of where Australia is going next. In some ways, Australia is going to become, this is going to sound ridiculous, I'm sorry, they're going to become more independent. They're not going to be the United States' mercenary. The wingman that sticks through the United States through thick and thin. Because they're seeing what's happening here. They've seen what's happened to our traditional allies. They've seen how those allies are being abandoned. They realize, they're not stupid. They realize that they're next. When you've got no friends left, when you basically alienated the world, and Australia is the last man standing. They know that it's only a matter of time before they're gone too. So you might as well start making plans to to leave the relationship. It's almost like bad analogy, but it's like a layoff in a company. And you're watching entire departments get laid off, and it's down to your one department. What makes you think you're not going to have layoffs too? You know, you may be the last one standing, but you got to know you're next. That's just the way it's going to be. One last thing, Trumpism on the world stage. How is it impacting elections, mindsets, values across the world? All right, come on down. Let's see how this one goes. It's the economy. It's crushing the economy. All these tariffs. It's just going to crush the economy. It's going to make poor people even poorer. It's going to be up to wealthy people to help them out. Justice. It's almost like the greed. It's an injustice. And the star card. Are you part of the collective, or are you on your own? Trump and Trumpism could actually end up bringing out the best in people, because you're seeing the worst in him. So you might start seeing more help for poor people and more social justice coming out. In the past, you got the Nine of Wands. There's just that people too tired to deal with the issues. It's too overwhelming. But now the fight has been brought to you. You have to fight. You've had a break, but now you've got to fight the fight. What side do you choose? Current situation is the King of Pentacles. You're watching the oligarchs. You're watching America slip further and further into an oligarchy. And is that what you want? Are the wealthy pulling their fair share? And I think that's the crux of the issue here, is that you can see where the tariffs have come in and how they're changing the world. And is this the world that we want, where wealthy people, control the money flow, control the laws, and keep people down? Do you want an oligarchy? Do you want to go back to a monarchy with kings and lords that make up 1% of the population? The peasants make up the other 99%. Lesson to be learned is the Ace of Wands. Donald Trump is the bull in the china shop. His tariffs have done this. His tariffs have united a world against the United States, for lack of a better description. But more to the point, it's causing it's causing the 99% of the tariffs to realize that maybe the 1% with all the money isn't doing what they need to do. Outcome is going to be in the Moon card. We don't know the path forward here. The path forward is fraught, and there's no clear answer to what is going to happen when we go down this path. You can retreat if you want back into the water with your claws out to defend yourself, but if you want to progress, you've got to walk down this path through the pillars of wisdom. If not now, you will have to do it later. But at some point, it needs to happen. Underneath it all, the journey's going to be worth it. This is kind of like your 5D and 3D world for those who like the 5D and 3D world things on this. Not to mention, Trump's just crazy. Trump is crazy. Maybe they'll start being mental health tests for world leaders, too. But, for better or for worse, Trump's tariffs are Trump's tariffs. And he can't, as much as he's trying to blame Biden for the stock market and Biden for the economy and Biden for this and Biden for that, it all started on April 2nd when tariffs got put in place. The turmoil was causing before that because of the tariffs, but the actual implementation is what started this whole thing. It basically, Trump gave the election to the left-leaning parties in Canada and Australia because of his tariff actions, because he's causing these countries to unite and push back against basically the bullying nature of Donald Trump and the United States in this case as he leads them. That's good for the world. Thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I do appreciate it. This reading is for entertainment purposes only, and this time with audio. And I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.